hope I have enough light in here. Hold on, let me see. Oh, that doesn't help much, does it? There we go. We got a little bit more light. Um, I am going live for a couple reasons. I had done this video, and for some reason, this is a new PC that I'm using, actually an old one, but I couldn't find the video to actually download. So we're going live. It is called Patterns Made Easy. And the reason why I call it Patterns Made Easy, because when you first start sewing and you want to make something and you go get your first pattern, sometimes it can be quite overwhelming. So first thing that you must do if you're making, especially if you're making clothing for yourself, is you need to know how to do your own measurements. Once you know how to do your own measurements, then you can measure for other people. And you might have family members who are like, oh, you're sewing now? Oh, I need something altered. And trust me, it'll happen. So one of the tools that I have discussed in a previous video is the measuring tape. This is a retractable one, tucks into your purse real easy. You can put it in your pocket. It's something that I carry one with me everywhere, because when you go to the store to buy clothes for yourself, a lot of times you wonder, I wonder if it'll fit. And you really don't always want to go into the dressing room. And I don't like using dressing rooms just because it takes too much time. And that's why a lot of people don't. And there's nothing more frustrating than going to the store, buying something for yourself, getting home, then putting it on, and like, great, it's too small. I have to take it back and get the next size up. So this actually helps you out. If you know your own measurements and you have one of these with you when you go to the store, if you're going to do a lot of shopping for yourself, if it's a iffy kind of thing size-wise, measure the waistband. Take this out, measure it, and then you'll know if it's going to fit you or not. So take your own measurements, jot them down on it. And I used to have a little spiral notebook that I kept. You know, they have these little tiny ones at the dollar store, right? You just stick that in your purse. And you're going to put other things in there, like the measurements for the curtains for your dining room. If you're going to make curtains, it comes in handy. So to do your measurements, if you're measuring for a top, you need to know your bust size, which is around the middle of your back and to the fullest point front. So you would take this out, wrap it around your back to the front, and then jot down what that measurement is. If you're a full figured gal, and I'm short, but I'm full figure. So even though the rest of my body might be a medium, the top part of me is not. It's a large. So it's really difficult to fit for myself. And I know there's a lot of ladies out there who really get frustrated that clothes don't fit when they go to buy them. So what you want to do for other than the top, yeah, the bust is going to be your most important part for blouses. When you go to the store, if it says it's a size 16 and you go to get a pattern, it may not be the same. And I will tell you why in just a minute. To do your waist measurement for pants, even if there's a dress that is like kind of form-fitted cut, you can take one of these and just don't stretch the material. Just kind of like lay it out across the waistline. And you have to remember, you use your natural waistline. The natural waistline is just above, I'll try to show you, is just above where your hip bone is here. This is your natural waistline. This is where you're going to measure all the way around. Always bring it to the front so you can see the number and then jot it down. That's your natural waistline. A lot of clothing is made to fit below the natural waistline, and you want to make sure that that's going, you know, they used to make the hip huggers back in the 70s. And you want to make sure that you measure for that. If it's a low rise pair of slacks, make sure you measure below your natural waist at least 1.5 inches. And there's a little trick you can do with pants where you match belt loops and around your neck, and then you can figure out how they fit. It's a trick some lady showed me. But then for slacks, you also need to know your hip size. And your hip size is, you take your measuring tape and you wrap it around the back of you on your derriere, at the fullest point. In other words, where it comes out the furthest, you're going to make sure that that tape measure hits the furthest point out, and you're going to make it come through the front flat. Do not pull it tight. Let it meet itself in the front. And then once you do that, you'll have an accurate measurement. So you have your bust, your waist, and your hips. The only other thing you might need to do is when you're buying a certain style dress and it looks like the waistline's dropped, it's called a elongated dress, you might want to know your back to waist measurement. You'll see that on patterns where it'll say back to waist is 16.5 inches, that sort of thing. So first thing before you start sewing, make sure you get your measurements. After you get your measurements and you've decided, well, I want to make something that's easy. Well, there's something that's not a piece of clothing that's easy, and it's tote bags, little carry purses or whatever. And it's funny. Simplicity has a really cute name. They have patterns that are called It's So Easy, and they are very easy. They usually don't have a whole lot of darts, and I'll explain those in a little bit. They're typically straight lines, just straight lines, and maybe a few curves. But this is it's got like a little hobo bag, and then this little tote bag with the pre-made handles. I actually made the little hobo bag, and I made it so that I could turn it right side out or inside out. This is actually the inside, because I added, it doesn't tell you to put a pocket in it, but I just took a square of fabric and I sewed a pocket onto the inside. And this is the outside. I've got this thing for reversible stuff, I think, because I make my bonnets reversible. So here you go. And this is the outside. Now you can see the straight line. The only tricky part with this when I first started making them was at the bottom is a separate piece sewn in. Now you could literally just cut this out two outside pieces and just make them rounded at the bottom and sew them together, but then you wouldn't have a flat bottom. So this one now has a flat bottom. To keep that stiff, I could have put a piece of cardboard in there. There's some designers that are done that way. It's just a piece of cardboard in there. So that was the hobo bag that I made. Now you have your measurements. So you go to the store, you find a pattern you like. Find something simple. Simple things are a skirt pattern, whether it be a straight skirt or a flared skirt. This is what's referred to as an A-line skirt. And the reason why it's called A-line is because it kind of has the shape of an A. And these are the most flattering skirts you ladies can wear. I don't know why they don't sell them in the stores anymore. Some places you might be able to find them. But if I want an A-line skirt, I have to make one. So that's an A-line skirt. The other thing is, and everybody loves these, pajama pants. Pajama pants are so easy. You can put pockets in them if you want, or not put pockets in them if you don't want to. The pockets can be tricky. When I first started doing pockets, I had to read it like 3-4 times. I'm like, now, which way do I pin this? Okay. It seems, but you'll figure it out anyway. It's in the instructions, and you just have to, best thing I can tell you, take your time. If you're having trouble understanding what a pattern's saying, just take your time. If you know someone who does sew, that you can pick their brain out, or you can always pick mine. I mean, I'd love to have the comments, okay? This is it's so easy, and it's a pajama pant one. And New Look also has one. Now, the only difference is the model's on the front and the prints of the fabric. I like this one because I know I get very hot in the summertime, and pajama shorts, this one's got the pajama shorts. It's less fabric, and you can make more of them out of more fabric. So you pick your pattern out. Now, you've got your pattern, you got your measurements. How much fabric do you need on your pattern? On the back side of it, there is a size chart. So you're going to look on this in this particular envelope to make sure that it has the size that you need. Now we're back to the clothing on the rack. Remember I said there's different patterns. Give your specific measurement. Those things on the rack, those numbers, those sizes, those are assigned by some person who is into marketing. And marketing is a way of getting more and more sales for the company that manufactures those things. So I actually did bridesmaid dresses for a wedding, and I had to do all the girls' measurements because they had to fit them correctly and perfectly. And so many of them got so upset because they would say, well, I buy a size 10 in the store. I wear a size 10. And when you do your real measurements, it's not a size 10 because this is, I think it's based off a metric. I'm not really sure, but initially in making clothing. And so it's real numbers. It's not made up numbers by some marketing guy. Okay. So do not get upset when you do your own measurements and you look on the pattern and it says you're a size 16 and you're used to buying a 12 on the rack. They're the same thing. It's just this one's telling the truth and that one's lying. Okay. So it'll show sizes, and it will also show how much yardage of fabric you need and the width of the fabric. It'll say 44, 45 width. It'll say 60, 54 inch. There's different widths of fabric out there, and it will tell you how many yards of each width you're going to need. In addition to that, after you find out how much fabric you need, is there anything else you need to make it look like this? In this case, you can see that the waistband, it's an elastic waistband. Well, on the back of every pattern, it will tell you exactly what, and it's called notions. I don't know why they use that word. But anyway, notions are the items, accessories you need to make sure you finish the project the way it's supposed to be. Whether it's you need buttons, a zipper, elastic, double fold bias tape. That's just a fancy name for material that's been folded double to put over a seam or over a neckline. This one doesn't use it. Now there is a design on here that at the bottom it looks like you could use double fold bias tape, but it may just be a strip of contrast fabric. But that will be listed on the back of the pattern. So your measurements, pattern, fabric, notions. Okay. Then you take all of that home and you take the pattern and the instructions on these patterns. You want to, it comes in, I took this one out, didn't I? Sure did. There it is. Inside the envelope, you have the paper pattern. It's this flimsy tissue stuff. So if you think that this is something that you're going to make a lot of, or a repeat kind of pattern, like one of your favorites, there's another video that I've got about how to preserve your pattern so that it lasts a lot longer than anything you can imagine as far as being able to use it over and over and over again. So you have your pattern in there, and they're on usually several different sheets. Then you have the instructions. The instructions will show you a lot of different things. The instructions show you like a sketch version of what the final product looks like, or piece. Then there's a pattern piece legend on it. And what that means is there's a listing of the pieces you need. They're numbered. And the legend is, if you're making, well, I forgot one step. On the front of the pattern, depending on what design it is, it'll have a little letter next to it. That little net letter, you need to, like, you like the one in picture A, so you only want the pattern pieces for picture A. So the legend tells you that picture A uses number 1, number 2, and number 3. So picture A on the envelope only uses 3 pieces out of this whole packet. So you want to cut them all out if you don't need to. Some people will. They'll cut every single pattern piece out, and then they'll pick the ones that they need. Me, I just look for the ones I need, cut those out, and leave the rest of them folded up in there. Saving myself some time. So you have that. So you cut your pattern pieces out, the ones that you need. So we need 1, 2, and 3 for the view A. They call it a view, the particular design. And then you're going to open this up. And for those who are brand new at this, read your instructions at least twice, especially if there's terminology you're not familiar with. And if you've never sewn in your life, you're not going to be familiar with this stuff. And if you do know someone who sews that you can pick their brain other than mine, like I said, then I'm sure they would be more than happy to help you understand what's on here. But this is some of the things you're going to see. You're going to see how to use your multi-size pattern. Patterns are now graduated, so which is awesome. They didn't used to be. You used to have about by a 10, a 12, a 14 separately. Now you have 10, 12, 14, all on the same pattern. It's just the lines. Now, they got really smart with patterns. When you are like myself, petite but full figured, my waist measurement is smaller than a person with my upper measurement. It's not proportioned. It's smaller than the pattern folks would make a normal size 14 for, would say. So with a graduated pattern, you can cut the pattern to specifically fit you based on your own measurements. That's why your measurements are so very important. And the cutting layout. So you got your fabric, you got your pattern, and now you need to know how to put the patterns on the fabric. This instruction sheet shows you exactly how to lay your patterns out for maximizing the use of your fabric. It tells you where to put the pieces that are on the fold. And it'll show, actually, on here, where the number 1 pattern goes, where the number 2 pattern goes, and it looks something like, this one's actually got pockets in these pants. This is cool. But anyway, it shows you the fabric. Hopefully you can see this. And on one side it says the fold, and you'll see the word selvage atop and selvage. The selvage on fabric is that finished edge on the bolts. Let me see. I have nope, that's not it. I'll try to show you something that has the oh, this is perfect. I have this material. Okay, because this one, the selvage is kind of like sticks out because it's a different color. The selvage is on this. This is the selvage. It's a finished edge, and it's going to be on either side. So if your fabric is 44 inches wide, your selvage is going to be on this side, and the selvage is going to be on that side. And then when you fold it, you fold it in. So selvage to selvage is basically how you're going to fold your fabric right side together. Remember, always before your pattern to your fabric, you put the right sides together so that when you cut it out and you construct it, the right sides are going to go together the same way. There are some materials that you don't have to do that with, and sometimes I don't do it that way because I'm in a hurry. But to do it the right way, right sides together, selvage to selvage, so that way you end up with a 22-inch wide piece of fabric on a 44-inch wide. Total width is 44. Folded in half is 22. 60-inch will be 30. So anyway, that's that. You pin your patterns on your fabric. And I get this question a lot. It's like, when you go to cut it out, do you cut it on the line, inside the line, or outside the line? Just outside the line. You don't want to cut away the outside, line, because you only need it later. If you cut it too far inside, you can change the size of the item that you're making. It's amazing, but if you do that on both ends, then you're taking away probably about 1/8 of an inch, and 1/8 of an inch is a lot. If you're not careful, you can really mess up the size, as the sizes that they're giving you on the pattern is based on cutting outside the line, not way outside the line, just outside the line on the pattern piece itself. So you're going to cut those out. But like I said, always read your instructions at least twice, especially being new at it and not really having done it before. You don't want to mess it up. That's why I'm giving you the pajama pants and the straight skirt as an example for a first project. Another really good one would be throw pillows, because you're just doing a square. I mean, you can do a rectangle if you want, but that way you get used to adjusting your sewing speed, getting to know your machine a little bit better. So doing something on a low scale like that actually helps you to get more confident with your sewing. I mean, and you'll, after time, you'll know when your sewing machine is telling you, hey, something's not right. So with that, as long as you have your measurements, and I mean, if you want to make clothes for yourself, that's definitely what you want to do, is take your measurements. And then always, always, any questions you have before you get that fabric in your hand, if you have any question about that pattern, just ask the associate there in the fabric department, and they'll be more than happy to help you out. If they're not nice, now they better be nice. I mean, that's their job, right? Anyhow, please do comment. Let me know if there's any other terminology that, let's say you have your first pattern and you're like, what's stay stitching? I can tell you, stay stitching is actually necessary in areas of clothing that are going to get a lot of stress. Stay stitching you're going to find on necklines. And all that is to give strength to that neck as you're pulling it over your head, putting it on and off, and it retains the shape of the neckline for you, that interfacing. Anything that has to do with types of fabric on the pattern, it even has what they call suggested fabrics. If knit is not on here, do not buy knit for that pattern. If cotton is not on here and it says rayon, and if it only says rayon, get rayon. There is a reason. The way it's made to be cut is for either a fabric that stretches or a fabric that doesn't stretch. So this is your this is your sewing Bible right here, as far as for your first project. So pay close attention to it. Like I said, any questions you have about it, there's people in the fabric store. I'll be able to answer them for you, and I can always answer them. And I would love to get the questions. So please do like, share, give me lots of comments. I'm waiting for them, and I'll be more than happy to help y'all out. I mean, it's fun making stuff for yourself. And then you have people who walk up to you and say, where'd you get that? I say, I made it. It's always good to say, I made it. And that's why I always say, create, find joy, and keep on sewing.